Rare earths, lithium, and the resource currency battles. Throughout history, monetary power has always been tied to a core resource. Gold once set the standard, oil became the bloodstream of the 20th century. Now, in the 21st century, a new trio of minerals is quietly redefining the global order. Rare earths, lithium, and cobalt. They are not just inputs for industry, they are becoming the hidden currency units of the modern world. Rare earths are the oxygen of modern technology. Without them, no magnets for wind turbines, no radar for defense, no smartphones in your pocket. Today, China controls more than 2/3 of global rare earth output and nearly 90% of refining. That means the world is not only buying minerals from China, but also depends on its processing technology. This is no longer just mining. It is the equivalent of owning the printing press of the tech era. If rare earths are oxygen, then lithium and cobalt are the fuel. The lithium triangle in South America, Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile, holds more than half the world's reserves, while Congo supplies over 70% of cobalt production. Yet resources are only the starting point. Real power lies in refining. And again, China dominates, refining over 60% of global lithium and nearly 80% of cobalt. The result? An electric car rolling off a production line in the US or Europe still depends on China's supply chain before it can hit the road. The idea of tying money to resources is not new, but in the 21st century, it has returned with remarkable scale. Between 2004 and 2018, governments across Africa, Latin America, and Asia signed over $164 billion worth of resource-backed loans, according to the Natural Resource Governance Institute. Most of these were arranged by China's policy banks, exchanging oil, copper, or other minerals as collateral for infrastructure funding. Angola became the textbook case, borrowing tens of billions from China Development Bank and Exim Bank, pledging future oil exports in return. To this day, Luanda is still restructuring parts of this oil-for-loan debt. Ghana tried a smaller experiment with gold for oil in 2022, hoping to ease dollar shortages. By 2025, however, the program had already stalled, weighed down by losses. What this shows is clear. Resource-backed finance is not a side story. At $164 billion, it has become a parallel system of credit, one where minerals act as collateral, not faith in a currency. And as demand for rare earths, lithium, and cobalt surges, this old logic looks increasingly like a blueprint for the future. Naturally, the US and Europe are not standing still. Washington passed the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, pouring tens of billions into EV and battery subsidies, but with strict conditions. Critical minerals cannot come from foreign entities of concern. This forces companies to shift supply chains out of China's orbit. At the same time, the US government is deploying public capital, loan guarantees, and long-term contracts to encourage refineries to be built at home. Europe responded with the Critical Raw Materials Act, CRMA, setting targets for 2030. At least 10% of its needs mined inside the bloc, 40% refined, and 25% recycled, while no more than 65% can depend on a single external supplier. European development banks are pumping capital, while Brussels layers ESG standards and traceability rules to enforce clean supply chains, a legal way of screening Chinese-linked inputs. While the West rewrites rules and subsidizes refineries, China is doubling down on its mine-to-molecule strategy. Giants like CATL, Ganfeng, and CMOC not only operate domestic mines, but also hold stakes in South America and Africa. Beijing backs them with cheap credit, political risk insurance, and long-term offtake contracts, locking in supplier nations. At the same time, China has selectively restricted exports of key materials, a reminder of where leverage truly lies. And Beijing is not stopping at raw materials. It is climbing up the ladder: cathode and anode materials, high-performance magnets, next-generation sodium-ion batteries, and recycling technologies. Even if the world tries to diversify away, China is preparing alternative plays to retain supply chain dominance. We are, therefore, entering a stage where resources do not just set production costs, they shape monetary power. Whoever controls the refining chains of rare earths, lithium, and cobalt will not only determine the price of technology, but also wield the authority of a shadow central bank in the new energy era. If the 20th century had the petrodollar, the US dollar tied to oil, then the 21st century is opening the door to a mineral standard. It will not replace the dollar outright, but it is creating a parallel form of money, the currency of resources. And this battle will decide not only who leads in technology, but who prints the money of the future.